One of the first things that we talked about in the class was our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is to retrieve records, regardless of how it's filed, regardless of who asks for it or when they ask for it. We've got to know where we can retrieve exactly what record is being called for. One of the issues is that sometimes different customers or the same customer can use different names. So what we need to do is to make sure that regardless of what name we are looking for a specific customer, we're going to have that name in our filing system. And this is called cross-referencing. So we're going to learn some reasons you would cross-reference individual names in the filing system. We're going to look at some personal names first. And the first reason that we would cross-reference a name is if it is unusual or easily confused. For instance, the example in your book on page 46 is a customer by the name of Charles David. Now, when we coded this originally, we put our slashes in and we underlined the last name and we numbered the first name as Unit 2. Well, the problem here is that if this name ever gets confused, if someone comes in and says, I want the record for Mr. David Charles, we've got to be able to go into our system and know that if we're looking for a key unit of Charles, that we'll find Charles David or David Charles and be able to get to the right record, to be able to retrieve the correct record. So, in this case, the correct name, the primary name is Charles David. David is the surname, Charles is the first name. And we're going to put a record in our filing system under the name of David Charles. This is how it is correctly coded. David is the last name, Charles is the first name. But what happens when somebody comes in and asks for the record for Mr. Charles? If we go into our filing system and we look for Mr. Charles, we're probably not going to find anything. So we won't be able to retrieve the record the way that we're supposed to be able to do. So we'll do a cross-reference, and what we'll do with the cross-reference is to code the filing segment the opposite way so that the key unit becomes the Unit 2 and Unit 2 becomes the key unit. So in this case, what the cross-reference would be is Charles as the key unit and David as Unit 2. Now, we need to be able to differentiate these in the system. So we're going to call this our primary record. And anytime we have information from Mr. Charles David to file, we're going to file it behind the primary record. But what we want to do is to put a cross-reference in under the name of Mr. David Charles that tells people to go look at Mr. Charles David. So we're going to create a cross-reference card. Let me show you what I want it to look like. This is the record that you're going to be writing on. And it already says cross-reference across the top. And then it is blank. And you're supposed to do the writing on it. So what you're going to do is to first write the cross-referenced name, the cross-reference name in correct coded order at the top. In this case, it would be Charles David. Now, remember that this is the cross-reference, but we're going to code it, Charles as the key unit and David as unit 2. But this is not where we want to file information. This is not where we would find anything for this customer. Instead, what we need to do is to tell who's ever looking for this information to go see, and then we're going to write the correct coded order primary name. David, with Charles as unit 2. So, when you go into the filing system and somebody says, bring me the record for Mr. David Charles, you would go in and you would find a record for Mr. David Charles, but then you would see the note that says, go see David, Mr. Charles David. Let's try another unusual or easily confused name. This person's name is Ji Hong Chuang. Now, this is his name correctly written. If we're going to code this name, we're going to put the slash between it. We're going to assume that this is the last name, so we're going to use it as the key unit, and then this becomes unit 2. However, again, this could very easily be confused. This one would be written in correct coded order, Chung. And then remember, we're going to drop the punctuation. So here's Hong, Ji Hong. This is the key unit, and this is unit 2. But now what we want to do is to do a cross-reference. Remember, I have a specific way I want you to write them. You're going to do a cross-reference card. The cross-reference is going to reverse the two names so that Ji Hong becomes the key unit and Chuang becomes unit 2. So then when we actually write the card, we're going to write the cross-reference first. So in this case, we would write at the top of our cross-reference card, Ji Hong Chuang, and we would underline it as the key unit and number the subsequent unit. But remember, this is not where whoever is looking for it, this is not where the person's going to find the information or all of the records that we have for this customer. So we're going to tell them to see Chuang, and this is the correctly coded primary record. And let's go ahead and code it, underline the key unit, and number the subsequent unit. Again, notice that I'm putting C in the middle and putting the primary name filing segment at the bottom, the cross-reference filing segment at the top. I know that it's not written this way in your textbook, but if you will write it this way for our exercises in this semester, you will more easily be able to see that you've got a key unit here and you've got another key unit here. So be sure that when you write your cross-reference record, you write the cross-reference filing segment at the top, write C in the middle, and then write the primary filing segment at the bottom in correct coded order. Let's try one more unusual or easily confused name. This one is Kyoudon. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. The last name is Sayacine. So if we're coding this filing segment, this is the primary filing segment, we're going to underline the key unit and number the subsequent unit. But again, this is an unusual name. So we might get it confused when we go looking for it or when somebody asks for it. We want to make sure that regardless of which name is asked for, we can find it in our filing system. So we're going to do a cross-reference by simply reversing these two units so that, excuse me, I wrote that incorrectly. No, that's correct. So that the first name becomes Sayacine and the last name becomes Kyoudon. Underline the key unit and number the subsequent unit. Now, when we write the cross-reference card record, we're going to write at the top the correctly coded cross-reference name. In this case, it would be Kyoudon Sayacine. If you know how to correctly pronounce these words, these names, if you would let me know, I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to code it, underline the key unit, and number the subsequent unit. But this is not where the records are being kept, so I've got to be sure that anybody that comes looking goes to a different place. They go see under Sayacine as the key unit, and Kyoudon as unit 2. I underline the key unit and number the subsequent unit. So the cross-reference name goes at the top, C goes in the middle, and the primary filing segment goes at the bottom. Correctly written cross-reference record.